Hello everybody and welcome back inside the State Champ studio. Like always, alongside former Michigan State Spartan McKenzie Long, my name is Kara Liles. And Kenzie, on this show, we usually talk about the successes of these teams and these players, but when you think about softball, it is a game where if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're considered incredibly successful. But we want to talk a little bit about adversity on this episode. So how important is it to learn how to deal with adversity?
I think adversity really separates the good players from the great players. The ability to deal with the adversity really is a separator, and I'm excited to look forward to our talk.
Absolutely, and we'll have that conversation a little bit later on in the show, but someone that seems to not really be struggling at all lately is Camden Binney.
Yeah.
This Jenison Rockford game, I mean, I love stories like this because she's just such an athlete. 7 innings pitched, 5 strikeouts, 3 hits, including 2 home runs, and that last one.
Yeah, that last one was big, a walk-off home run, a walk-off grand slam actually.
Yep.
And I think, for her, what's big about that is they entered the 7th inning down. For Camden to come up to bat, after pitching all game, already having a home run on the day, and to be able to hit a grand slam in that moment is really awesome.
And she isn't their only standout. We've got another great story on that Rockford team.
Yeah,
right?
Rockford only had 4 hits on the game, and 3 of them coming off the bat of Camden, 1 of them coming off the bat of Peyton. And Peyton has such a cool story. She's committed to Bowling Green, but when she was a little kid, they didn't know if she was ever even going to walk. Peyton was born with bilateral club feet. She had to have surgery when she was a baby and cutting her Achilles, and so the fact that she's able to not only play, to compete, she runs track, but she's committed to Bowling Green.
And that's a story that, not a lot of us can relate to, but it's something that, you just love to hear about in these high school athletes, that adversity, like we talked about at the beginning of the show.
Adversity is huge for her because she's left-handed now, but she just turned left-handed last year.
Okay.
So I don't think if she didn't go through having to relearn how to walk as a baby, having to learn people telling her, no, you're never going to do that, she probably wouldn't have found her niche, which is on the left side, which ultimately led her to a college scholarship.
Absolutely. We just love stories like that. Like, just hearing so much inspiring stories coming out of these high school athletes is really awesome to hear.
Yes.
Moving on ahead, Lakeview at Eisenhower, such a strong offensive performance from both teams.
In the game, there was 4 home runs, 2 coming off the bat of Ava Costello, but ultimately Eisenhower took away with the win. I think what's cool about that game is Eisenhower had, they played a tough draw. They walked Ava Costello with the bases loaded, but ended up working in their favor because unfortunately the next hitter hit into a double play.
How risky is that? That's the mindset that you have to have as a coach. I'm going to walk in this run, but I feel like ultimately this decision is going to help my team. How tough is it?
Yeah, it is a tough decision. Ava Costello had 2 home runs on the day, and 2 home runs off pitches that most hitters don't hit home runs on.
Right.
Pitches high in the zone. She had 4 RBIs. She had 3 runs scored.
Right.
So a tough decision, and sometimes it goes their way, sometimes it didn't. Lucky for Eisenhower, it went their way.
Would you have made the same decision as a coach?
I don't know. That's a good question. It's hard to think about it in that situation, especially because they scored so many runs. So it wasn't like Ava Costello was the only one performing for them. Yes and no. I don't, I guess I would have to figure out in that situation what I would do, but ended up working out in their favor.
And I feel like, I don't have that much experience with coaching, but I feel like a lot of it is just the vibe that you're feeling. It's kind of just, I have to go with my gut, right?
Yeah, and there's always pitchers that hitters tend to hit well.
Right.
And it seems like Ava Costello was hitting the Eisenhower pitchers well. She was seeing the ball well. She looked confident in the box. And so when you have a hitter that looks confident in the box, sometimes you just have to go with your gut. And, again, it worked out for them.
Is that intimidating, knowing that, okay, usually I struggle with this batter? Is that sort of intimidating?
I think the biggest thing is you got to trust your coach, right? And so for the Eisenhower pitcher to trust her coach in that situation and say, you know what, Ava Costello is going to Michigan. She is known to be a very big clutch hitter.
Right.
So, and she's confident in the box. Like when you watch her in the box, she just looks like she's ready to
She's
crush
got
the
the
ball.
swag.
She does.
Yep.
She does. She has a good approach. She's constantly always in the at bat. She never takes herself out of the at bat. And so, as a pitcher, I think for Eisenhower's pitcher to trust their coach in that situation ultimately led them to success.
Absolutely. And like you said, you got to trust the process, right?
Yes, got to trust it.
Yep. And somebody else who seems to be trusting the process as of late is Gracie Maloney.
Oh, yeah, Gracie Maloney. And it's funny because that's Ava Costello's teammate in travel ball, so it's been kind of fun. But yeah, Gracie Maloney threw a 7-inning, 21 strikeout game. only 2 hits. You know, the thing that really stood out to me in that game, though, was Gracie's efficiency, right? She threw 67% strikes in the game, ultimately, which means that her balls were effective.
Right.
You know, when you're able to strike out that many hitters, what really is the difference is, are your balls, like, are they close to the zone? Are they making hitters guess? Are they making hitters, like, be active?
Lean a little bit.
Yeah, be active in every pitch.
Right.
And for Gracie, clearly in that 21 strikeout game, her balls were effective, which allowed the strikes to come and strike out 21.
And as, you know, trying to get into Gracie's mind a little bit, as you're having so much success in a game like that, does that add a little bit of pressure every time you run out there?
You know, I think you just started to get into a rhythm, right? And I think for Gracie, she's again a seasoned pitcher as well. She's going to North Texas.
Right.
So she's done this before at the highest level. And so for her, I bet you by the time she got into the fifth, sixth inning,
like,
she was
I'm
just kind of,
rolling.
she was just in a rhythm. And I think, you know, again, when you're commanding the zone as well as she did and you're efficient, it's not that hard. What happens is when you lose fatigue, and you get fatigued, and now your balls are really out of the zone. That's when you start to, you know, get pressure and things like that. But when your balls are effective, that's when your strikes become even more effective.
And I feel like when you get a little bit fatigued, that's when, you know, fundamentals start to kind of go out of your mind a little bit, and obviously that just wasn't happening for her.
Yeah, you know, the big piece for Gracie is she's a power pitcher. So she throws 66, 67. And so for her to keep up that pace all game is that's how you know if she's not getting fatigued or not. And so clearly going into the 7th inning, she's still able to consistently throw hard in the zone, which allowed her to be successful.
And she also, in that same game, hit a home run.
Yeah.
Come on.
Talk about an athlete. We talked about it earlier. You know, she is an athlete. You know, when she's not pitching, she's playing third, shortstop, and that's what she's recruited to do. She's recruited to be a utility that can pitch, that can hit.
66, 67 miles an hour.
Yes.
Like, just an athlete, true athlete.
She is an athlete, that's for sure.
And on this show, we tend to focus, like I said, on the brighter side of softball, but it is a game where you're going to fail more than you're going to succeed in most cases. So we want to talk about a little bit how adversity kind of changes the game and how it can kind of affect your mindset going into a game. So, you know, as these high school girls are getting ready to go into college, how important is it for them to kind of learn that I'm going to have to go through this?
I love that question, because I think what separates and allows players to be successful right away in college is the fact that they don't run from adversity when they're younger. Adversity is going to happen, whether it's an injury, whether they're sitting the bench, whether they're struggling, or outside adversity that causes it to be hard in the game. And you know, I think when a player is able to lean into that adversity, say, you know, I got this, you know, I'm going to figure it out, that's when the fun happens for them. That's when the success happens. And ultimately, they're going to have adversity. Right?
Exactly.
So if you get protected from adversity now, you're going to have a hard time dealing with it when you're in college. And you only get 4 years in college. So you want to be ready by year 1, not by year 2, because you're learning how to deal with adversity. Right.
And like you mentioned, the ability to bounce back. You know, you're gonna go through stuff like that, but how important is it to say, okay, this is gonna teach me something in the long run, so I just gotta get through it?
Yeah, when you mature as an athlete, I think what happens is you learn. There's no failure, there's only learning.
Exactly.
And that's really hard concept. It took me a long time
for sure.
to think that too, but it truly is the case. I mean, I remember through my career thinking my freshman year I was so worried about failing, about not being the best, about, you know, sitting or whatever that looked like. And by my junior year, I'm like, thank goodness I'm surrounded by amazing athletes, so I don't have to do it alone. And that's what these kids will start to learn as they mature, and I think it'll be fun for them. But the key is not running from it now.
Right, and it is a lot of like the mindset. Like you said, you know, you can't just sit and be down about something that happens to you. You gotta learn how to work through it.
Yeah, and I think for them is allowing them to say, failure only comes from not bouncing back, right?
Right.
And I think the big key for them is not like being afraid to fail, but saying I am good enough to be better in that moment. And I think sometimes we're so worried, like, was that an error, or did I miss that? And it's like, no, hey, could you have done better? Yeah, okay, the next time just do better.
Right.
It's not a big deal. Just next time just do better.
Right.
And if you get in that situation, get in that mindset, then you're not so worried, well, was that an error? Was that not?
Right.
It's like, no, I'll
Next
get this.
one.
Yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
Hit it to me again. I'll make the play.
Absolutely. And do you have any like tips or tricks? You've been there. Any tips or tricks that you kind of learned along the way?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I learned is my coach always said to not celebrate failures.
Okay.
And I loved that. I thought, Coach Jay always made it a point to say, I don't want to know if you failed.
Right.
I don't want the other team to know if you failed. And so, my mindset every time, and again, it took me a while, but my mindset is I don't want you to know if I'm 4 for 4 or 0 for 4.
Right, I'm gonna have the same attitude regardless.
And my mantra is own your impact, right? Own your impact as a leader, own your impact as a player, own your impact, and you can't do that when you get down in failure. And so learning how to own your impact is really what allows you to it's not about you. It's about the game, it's about the team. And so own it. Own who you are, own what you mean to the team. It has nothing to do with your playing ability.
Well, it is time to talk Top 10 Softball Player of the Year presented by Turn In 2. And we've got some new faces this week on our list.
We do. Olivia Turner from Grass Lake and Megan Beamer from Hudsonville. Olivia is committed to Bradley and Megan's committed to Michigan. And we're excited. Their team is seeing success. And they're showing out for the teams.
Absolutely. And one thing that we want to highlight this week is the importance of these coaches getting stats out there and available to our team that's making this list, because you can go into that.
Yeah, I think, it's really, there's a lot of really good players out there, and it's really hard for us to gather information when we don't have access to Game Changer or, coaches submitting information. So there's a ton of good players that we're looking at that are on our radar, but we need some way to get information.
Right.
And so going on the Turning 2 website, submitting their information, reaching out to myself, something like that will really get your players an opportunity to be on this list or be looked at.
For sure, and we can include your social media, email, everything on this post. And Morgan Sizemore is leading our vote this week. To vote for her or any of our top 10 players, you can visit statechampsw.com. And Kenzie, we've got a huge tournament this weekend, the Michigan Stars tournament. What can we expect from that?
Yeah, that's a fun tournament. There's 48 teams in that tournament. There's the teams like Algonac, Allen Park, Mercy. So a lot of good competition. What's cool about that tournament is they have 6 different fields going on at once.
Okay.
And you get a lot of different competition. You get Division I crossing over to Division II.
Right.
Kind of go head to head a little bit, and so it's going to be a fun tournament.
Did you like tournaments like that? The huge tournaments. Just get to see teams from all over the place.
Yeah, I think that's what's fun is you get to see different teams, different competition. And one thing that's kind of cool about that is the last couple of years, the team that's won the Michigan Stars tournament has gone on and been successful in the state championship tournament. So it really allows them to kind of get a step forward.
And just like a preview of what you can expect as you get closer to tournament play, right?
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of players that are on our list, on our watch list there.
Perfect.
And so it's going to be fun to see, those players show out against the best competition.
Yep.
And now you as a player, if you're on the list, you can see kind of what you're up against as well.
For sure. And the weather, we've talked about, these last couple weeks, it's been kind of not so great, but the weather this week is looking pretty good, right?
Yeah, looking so good that I think I'm going to be out there watching those games.
There you go. See, I'm not one to sit in the rain. I don't like rain, I don't like cold, but bring out a little sunshine. Perfect. Well, let's hope those bats stay hot.
Let's hope those infielders turn 2.
State Champs Swing Away is presented by Lawrence Technological University. Be curious, make magic, visit ltu.edu. Swing Away is also brought to you by the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. The Michigan Army National Guard, a proud sponsor of the MHSAA. The Detroit Athletic Club Foundation Male and Female Athlete of the Year Awards. Who will be this year's award winners? Find out live June 5th only on State Champs Sports Network. Turn In 2 Softball. Experience Turn In 2 Softball, where the mission to build champions both on and off the field.